Okay. Hello. Welcome back to the channel. Hi, how you doing? So last week we started doing our series of upgrading the starter decks, retrofitting them for standard use, and making it so a person on a budget can get started playing the game and playing it well. So last week we did mono white, mono blue, mono black. So this week we're going to be working on mono red and mono green. And then after that, we're going to start getting into the two color decks that the developers have designed for us and trying to work on those. So for today, we're going to be starting with the mono red deck. So let's go take a look at what we have and how we're going to change it. Okay, so this is the deck that we are going to be working with, and it was a pretty stock, like, red aggressive goblins build. Now, we could have gone a few different ways with this list, and honestly, if we just wanted to build, like, stock red deck wins, I mean, we could very well do that. I mean, red deck wins doesn't require a whole lot of monetary investment to get the deck off the ground, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. So, if you look at all of the cards here, you see the ones that are highlighted in red. These are the ones that are not legal for standard play, which basically means we had to rebuild this deck from the ground up. Like, every card in here, other than the basic mountains, were illegal cards to play. So, what we're going to be doing with this instead is we're going to be taking out all these red cards and going with these clear to see new cards that we're adding in. And we are doing this on a budget of only 10 rares and mythic wild cards. So let's go over what the deck wants to do, and then we'll go over like the basic card by card choices. So basically what this deck is going to be doing is it's going to be, instead of going for a go wide creature build, it's going to be going for a more direct damage reusable damage kind of build. So what I mean by that is, instead of using cards like Raid Bombardment that are good and beneficial for creature builds, we're going with Mechanized Warfare, which at face value does about the same thing. It does deal extra damage based off of what you're doing, but it affects everything you're doing, like creature damage, spell damage, everything. If it's damage that comes from a red or an artifact source, it gets boosted by Mechanized Warfare. And so let's take a look at what we're going to be doing that damage with. We do still have the Monastery's Swift Spear, which is pretty much been auto-include in any deck that is going to be running a lot of non-creature spells. And we are running a lot of like just stock direct damage. But where this deck gets a little more interesting is with the inclusion of Thermo Alchemist. For 2 mana, you get a 0/3 defender, and it has the ability to tap to deal 1 damage to each opponent. But whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get to untap the Thermal Alchemist. So let's say, for example, you're holding up a handful of direct damage spells, like instants that you can cast at the end of your opponent's turn. You could say, okay, end of turn, we'll tap this, deal 1 damage, boosted by the Mechanized Warfare, so potentially 2 damage with each activation, and then cast things like Lightning Strike, Play with Fire. If it's your turn, you cast End the Festivities. Or Stoke the Flames. All these direct damage spells, point them at your opponent's face, untap the Thermal Alchemist to deal 1 more damage by tapping it again at the end of combat, or end of the turn. Another card that does relatively the same thing is this guy right here, the Kessig Flame Breather. Again, 2 mana. This one has a little bit better body of 1/3, and it does not have Defender. But it says, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Kessig Flame Breather deals 1 damage to each opponent. So instead of tapping and untapping with this guy just does extra damage whenever you cast spells. And that's not just like instants or sorceries like with the Thermal Alchemist. That's with cards like Urabrask's Forge, because it's not a creature. It generates creatures, but it is not a creature. So it will deal extra damage through the Kessig Flame Breather. Same goes for Invasion of Regatha, which is a battle, not a creature. And it's also not an instant or sorcery, so you won't be able to untap Thermal Alchemist off of this or Urabrask's Forge, but Kessig Flame Breather will be able to get its extra damage in. by casting these spells. Aside from that, we have actually let's take a moment to go through like each of the bits bit by bit. So we're running a couple copies of End the Festivities, and the reason we're running those is because sometimes you're going to run up against opposing creature builds, and you're going to need a good way to clear the board. And this will get pumped by Mechanized Warfare. So for 1 mana, you can do 2 or 3 damage to the opposing board, not just to creatures, but to planeswalkers as well. We got 4 copies of Play with Fire, really great for pegging your opponent at the end of turn and then being able to take a look at what comes next off of your board, or off of your library, I mean. See, we got 4 copies of Lightning Strike. Pretty much any red deck is running this right now, or any red deck that wants to deal damage quickly. See, what else we have? We have the Invasion of Regatha, one of my personal favorite battles for dealing extra damage. For 2 and a red, you get in a battle with 5 defense counters on it, and when it comes into play, it deals 4 damage to another target battle or opponent. So if this is the second time you cast Invasion of Regatha, you can target your previous Invasion of Regatha with this, or you can just point it directly at your opponent's face, which is most likely what you're going to be doing with this. And it also deals 1 damage to up to 1 target creature. Of course, this is again boosted by the Mechanized Warfare. And on the back side, if you ever decide to destroy your other battle with this, it becomes a 4/4 creature with prowess. And if a non-creature source you control would deal damage to a creature, battle, or opponent, it deals damage +2. So it's also a damage amplifier as well. Let's see. Aside from that, we have a few copies of the Urabrask's Forge. This one right here, it threatens to like end the game on its own. Like just being able to pump out a slightly bigger creature every single turn. And the token itself is a red creature, so it will be amplified by the Mechanized Warfare as well. But basically what this does, it says, at the beginning of combat in your turn, put an oil counter on the forge, then create an X1 red Phyrexian horror creature token with trample and haste, where X is the number of oil counters on the forge. And then you sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step. So that's that. Then we have a couple copies of Nahiri's Warcrafting. So we have, for 1 and 2 red, you have a spell that deals 5 damage on its own, boosted by Mechanized Warfare if you have them out. And it deals 5 damage to a creature, a planeswalker, or a battle. So unfortunately, you can't point this at face, but this is really good for clearing the board of pesky cards like, say, Sheldred, or another battle, or something with a backside of 5 specifically. But if you happen to point this at something that is a little bit smaller, you can use that excess damage to look at the top X amount of cards on top of your library, and then exile one of them and then cast that card this turn. So say, for example, you point this at like something has a toughness of 3, those extra 2 points that would have been normally wasted, you get to look at the top 2 cards of your library and choose one of those cards to play this turn. So it's a little bit of card advantage. And then over here we have Stoked Flames. Deals 4 damage to any target, and it has Convoke. So if you happen to have creatures on the board that you want to tap to cast this, you can, but it's not really necessary. But this does have like a quasi synergy with the Thermal Alchemist. You can tap this to help cast Stoke the Flames, and then Thermal Alchemist will then untap. Same with Kessig Flame Breather, because Flame Breather does not need to be untapped in order to deal the extra damage. So that's basically what this deck is looking to do here. It's just a very basic direct damage dealing deck. We are running exactly 10 rares in this deck. The rares are, let's see, where are they? They are the 3 Nahiri's Warcrafting, the 4 Mechanized Warfare, 4 Urabrask's Forge, and actually, I think we might be under budget. Yeah, because none of these over here are rare. So that's 1, 2, 3. That's 9. Yeah, we're under by 1. So that's an even cheaper deck for you to play with. So we're going to go ahead and finalize this deck, take it out onto the ladder, and see how well it does. And if we want to make any adjustments afterwards, I'll talk about those adjustments after we play our games. So let's go take a look at it. Okay, so let's see here. We have 3 mountains and the festivities, a monastery swift spear, a thermal alchemist, and a mechanized warfare. So we do have some fun toys to play with, but we need some spells. So let's get started with it. Let's see who goes first. I think our opponent goes first. Or they're still choosing their mulligan. Okay. So we got a white-green deck so far. It could be enchantments, it could be toxic. So let's start with Monastery Swift Spear. And attack in. Let's see what they play for turn 2. Right, second Razor Verge. Okay, so it's enchantments. Alright, here we go. Let's start with an attack and see how they handle it. Okay, they just choose to block. Smart. They probably think that we are a standard mono-red deck. So let's see how they react to the Thermo Alchemist. Alright. We got a Plains, so they're up to 3 mana now. Their entire hand is very likely playable this turn. Okay, got a Jukai Naturalist. Okay, they want to cast Ossification on the Thermal Alchemist, maybe? Oh no, they're more afraid of the Swift Spear. I can't say I blame them too much. So let's go ahead and start by activating the ability, peg them for 1, and then we're going to play with fire right now, just because I want to get that off the board. Next. End turn. I think we have to wait until next turn to cast our Mechanized Warfare. Alright, we got Calyx. It's going to resolve. Okay, so before that, we're going to activate this ability. And then we're going to play with fire, targeting the Calyx. Alright, if Calyx dies, Thermal Alchemist becomes untapped. And our opponent says no thank you. I like it. Alright, that's a good first game. Okay, so here we have 3 mountains. Thermal Alchemist, a Lightning Strike, a Mechanized Warfare, and an Urabrask's Forge. So we want to get that Urabrask's Forge out as quickly as possible. So I'm thinking we'll probably go with the Thermal Alchemist on 2 and the Forge on 3, provided they don't do anything nasty. Let's go hello. So let's go here. We'll go with the Thermal Alchemist first. And we'll see how they play their second turn. So far it might be Jeskai though. The Jeskai deck is actually really strong right now. Okay, so it is an Is It Artifacts deck. Interesting choice. Okay, let's go third mountain into Urabrask's Forge. Next. I'll attack. Smart lad. Alright, we pass the turn, and we're going to keep that guy untapped until it's their end turn. Tap any number of untapped artifacts you control. When you do, Yosha declares war, deals damage to target creature or planeswalker. Okay. Not worried about that, really. Do they want to tap their Ornithopter? Resolve. They do not. Alright, gain a life. This is an interesting looking deck. Invasion of Kaladesh. Enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. Okay, you have yourself a Thopter. Resolve. Pass. Okay, we will tag them for 1 at the end of turn. And thankfully, they are tapped out right now, so we're going to go ahead and cast Mechanized Warfare now. Next, we'll go to combat, and we'll have this attack. Now that's going to be dealing 3 damage instead of 2. All right, so they decided to take it. That is a lot of mechanized warfare I have in my hand. Okay, up to one target artifact you control becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 4/4 for this turn. So they're likely going to use that to go against the Invasion of Kaladesh. That's a pretty good curve, isn't it? Pia Nolar, what? Haste. Whenever you play land from exile or cast a spell from exile, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature. Okay. This is literally the first time I've ever seen Pia Nolar in play. I'm very interested. This is a strange deck. Alright, +1/+1. Okay, I like it. Yeah, and the other one goes for me. As I would expect. Bink, bink. Alright, what comes back from the other side of the Invasion of Kaladesh, I mean? It comes back as a vehicle. Flying, Aetherwing Golden Scale Flagship. Power is equal to the number of artifacts you can... Wow, oh, I'm about to take a lot of damage next turn. Take 2. Okay, so we got a Kessig Flame Breather, but we also only have 3 lands, so that's not great for us. So let's go to next. We'll go to combat. We'll have that attack for 4. And they opt to take it. So, I'm going to end the turn. This is not great for me right now, only having 3 lands. Alright, so what are they going to target with that? You want to target that? Okay, so let's start by activating the ability to tag for 2. Okay, and then we're going to try to Lightning Strike that. The Alchemist will untap. Okay, he's going to tap to crew, just let his creature die. Alright, it is resolved. Ren's resolve. Okay, so they will exile the top 2 cards of their library, and until the end of their next turn, they get to play those cards. Pretty good. Yeah, Goldforge Thopteryx. Ooh, I see the combo now. It all makes sense now. Exiling cards on the top of the library counts for that. That is so smart. Yeah. I'm gonna take a lot of damage here. Okay. Alright, let's activate. Okay. So, let's go ahead and tag for 2. Is it going to react in any way? Okay. So let's see here. Yeah, I think we have to just cast the Nahiris on this right now. It's going to untap our Thermo. Okay. Ooh, gosh. Exile one of these cards. Do I want the Play with Fire or do I want the Mountain? I kind of need the land right now. Okay, so we'll go and play a land. I'll go next. Okay, they're gonna do anything with this attack step. Alright. They will attack for 5. Will they block? Okay. Yeah, they're gonna block. Alright. That puts them to 4. And we're just going to hold this 1 mana open and bluff having a 1 mana spell in hand. Alright. So they can get in. Ooh. Okay, yeah, that might have me dead. So let's see what happens. Let's see how they just... Ooh. Yeah, yep, no, they got me. You know what? This is a very interesting deck. I'm not going to concede. You can absolutely get it. I was not expecting a Thopter beatdown list. That's pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and tag it for 2. Yep, that's game. Well done. Well done. Okay. All right, this looks interesting. It's got 2 Urabrask's Forges. I'm tempted to keep this just because of the Forges, honestly. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do on turn 1 or 2, but we might draw into something that might help us. So let's go ahead and keep this, especially since we are on the play. A couple Forges, it could get nasty. Okay, so we're up against red. All right, cool. So we got a Thermo to play on turn 1. That's great. Okay, so this is red-white. Alright, let's go ahead and play our 3rd land, and we will play a Urabrask's Forge. Next. Alright, makes a dude, swing in. Urabrask's Forge is quickly becoming one of my favorite cards in Standard right now. Just because it just, every turn just makes a slightly bigger guy with haste and trample. It's kind of dumb. Okay, so is this like Naya humans, Boros humans? What is this? Harried Artisan. Haste, transform, activate as a sorcery. And what does it transform into? A 3/4 flying haste. Okay, interesting choice. Alright, and turn, let's activate, deal 1 damage. Alright, next turn we're going to play another Forge. Make some boys, and we're going to start swinging. Bink, bink. Alright, going to end the turn. And hope that they don't have any kind of artifact destruction. But they are definitely in the colors for it. It all matters on whether or not they decide to be playing it. Siege Veteran. Okay. I'm into it. We're going to put the counter. Put it on him? Okay. Is that a soldier? That's a human artificer. Okay, it can go on any creature though. Alright. Pass. No blocks. Definitely no blocks. Alright. Activate the ability. Okay. Perfect. So let's go here, and we're going to tag for 1. And then we're going to lightning strike this. That's going to untap our Thermo Alchemist. And that is going to cause a forfeiture. Alright, cool. Alright, so here we have 3 mountains. Play with Fire, a Flame Breather, Invasion of Regatha, and Urabrask's Forge. So we're going to keep it, because it's got some action. Alright, let's start with the mountain and say go. End turn. Alright, pass. I'm going to hang on to my Play with Fire right now. Play the Kessig. Let's see if they just instantly try to remove it. Oh no, they play a Citizen's Crowbar. Very interesting. Okay, let's go Mountain. And what I'm going to do here is we're going to play the Monastery Swiftspear. And we're going to do a Play with Fire on that. Okay. That gives +1 here, and Kessig dealt 1 damage because of the spell. Now we're going to swing in and go to 16. I'm a little hesitant to play my Urabrask's Forge with that crowbar being on the table, though. Steel Seraph. Alright. That is very good for me because I happen to have a lightning strike in hand. So let's go lightning strike there. Same pattern's going to happen again. That dies. We attack. We go to 12. Interested to see what else is going to come out of this deck. We're seeing a lot of really interesting decks right now. Ossification on what? Monastery Swift Spear. They are afraid of the Swift Spear, and I can't say I blame them. Alright, Ambitious Farmhand comes in. They do not have the mana to equip. Okay, so let's see here. We'll go here. And we're going to do we want to play the Urbrask's Forge or the Invasion of Regatha? I think we want to do the Invasion of Regatha, because that's going to clear their creature and deal 4. And Kasich deals an additional damage as well. So let's go ahead and attack face. There we go. Kasich Flame Breather is low-key a great card. Alright, they play the Twin Shot Sniper. 2 damage to any target. They choose me. Okay, let's see here. Let's go ahead and start with a Lightning Strike here, just to get that creature off the table. And then we're going to play the Urbrask's Forge. Deal another damage. Forge comes through, and then we all attack your face. Boom, boom. Alright, so we just need to draw something to do 2 more damage. That could be it. But let's start with an attack. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay, he's going to block both. 1 damage of trample is going to get through, and we're going to cast End the Festivities to end the game. There it is. Kasich's good. Kasich's real good. Okay, 3 lands. We have an End the Festivities, a Play with Fire, and 2 Thermal Alchemists. I think we'll keep this. Looks good. We happen to be on the play. Even better. End turn. Pass. I'll take my turn. I'm going to hang on to the Play with Fire so that I can get some triggers off of Thermal Alchemist. A lot of people are just like completely ignoring the damage dealers because they think the Monastery Swift Spear is going to be a bigger threat, which they're not necessarily wrong. All right, let's go Mountain and another Alchemist. Next, end turn. All right. What are you going to do? Okay, he's going to play another Spirited Companion. That's perfect for me. That's just going to play directly into my End the Festivities. Okay, go ahead and draw a card. Pass. Okay, so end of turn, we're going to activate this ability. It's going to deal 1. Then we're going to cast Play with Fire, targeting you. That untaps. Invasion of Regatha is going to stay on the top. I like that card. And then we're going to activate this again to deal 1 more damage. Okay. Now let's go here. And we're going to do tap here, deal 1. Tap here, deal 1. Then we're going to cast End the Festivities. Those untap. Those die. 2 more damage. See here. And that is, it's instant or sorcery. This is neither of those. So let's go ahead and... Do we want to cast that now or later? To hell with it. We'll cast it now. Submit 0. Just deal 4 right now. End turn. That was a pretty good turn. I like that. Alright, does he have a depopulate? He's a Twin Shot Sniper, though. Why are people playing Twin Shot Sniper all of a sudden? This is the second person in a row that I'm seeing this be played. Very interesting. All right, let's go ahead and activate the ability twice. All right, let's go ahead and play this, and then we're going to activate, and then we're going to stoke you. Boom. That did it. All right, I think we are onto something with this deck. Okay, so for this deck, I'm very happy. I'm very happy with this deck. This deck was actually a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun than like the basic run-of-the-mill red deck wins. It's a little bit slower than that deck, but the reach is absolutely there. Being able to utilize the Thermal Alchemists over and over and over every turn, pumped up by the Mechanized Warfare, really, really strong. I do believe, though, I think we want to mix up the mix of Thermal Alchemist to Kessig Flame Breather. Move them to like a 3 of 3, because I've found that there are some instances where the Kessig Flame Breather is actually better than the Thermal Alchemist, because he triggers off of any non-creature spell. The Alchemist only triggers off of instants and sorceries, so that's probably one move I would make right there. Aside from that, End Festivities as a 2 of I think is the right call. I don't think I want to play any more than that. It was very good in a couple of my matches, but just the fact that it doesn't hit face, or well, it does hit face, but only for like 1 damage. So I would prefer having 4 copies of Play with Fire and 4 copies of Lightning Strike over End the Festivities. So I think it being a 2 of is good. Nahiri's Warcrafting, I might actually go down to 2 of on this just because it doesn't deal damage to face, and this is kind of a deck that wants to hit face as often as possible. So maybe go down 1 on these and up 1 on Invasion of Regatha, or even getting rid of it completely in favor of an Impulse Draw, like an Exile 2 off the top type of spell. The Mechanized Warfare, really, really strong when we get to draw and put it onto the battlefield. There were some games where this card was completely obsolete, didn't need to play it at all. Like the last game we played against the red-white deck, just won the game off of Kessig Flame Breathers and Thermal Alchemists. Stoke the Flames, absolute banger of a card. Being able to deal 4 damage to anything, really good. So the Stoke the Flames plus Invasion of Regatha, really, really good. But the Urabrask's Forge, absolute MVP. Real great card. I would not go anywhere in this deck without it being a 4 of. As far as the mana base goes, I'd probably bring in a few copies of Mishra's Factory, because the Mishra's Factory also gets the buff from Mechanized Warfare, and maybe even a copy of Mirex as well, because the Mirex creates artifact tokens. So those are a few changes that I might make to the deck. Maybe like a little bit more card draw, because we do run a little bit dry in the mid game. But overall, it's a pretty solid deck and is very fun to pilot. Absolutely fun to play. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this deck. Upgrading it to a more direct damage spell-based build rather than relying on a whole lot of creatures to get the job done, I think it's a good move. So yeah, I would definitely go with this build. If you do want to run more creatures, I think a creature that you could go well with is, let's look it up real quick. It's a vampire adversary. Let's look for it. Yeah, that's that one right there. The Bloodthirsty Adversary, just because it can recast spells from your graveyard. So it would definitely go in theme with the rest of this deck, because you want to be playing a lot of spells in this build. So yeah, those are just a few things that I would go with in this build. So if you decide to play it, you can check the description. I will leave a link to the deck down there, and I hope you enjoy it. It's a fun deck. So till next time, take care of yourselves.